you'll see a lot of people sitting out some of their most favorite tandas because when you love the music so much and it's so specific, and if you don't have someone to express that same feeling with, I would rather just sit it out than struggle through it with somebody else and do it like a disservice. All right, we are back for another episode of Left Foot, Right Foot, and today we are going to be talking about why some people in tango stop dancing with people that are perceived below their level. And what I'm going to explain by that is that we've had this whole big thing about being inclusive and being more welcoming and dancing with everybody at the milonga. But there seems to be a pretty good reason why a lot of people don't. And it comes to this idea of, well, if I start dancing with less skilled dancers, will I become less skilled myself? Which is an interesting thought to think about because in many cases, and I've seen it myself, that kind of does happen, right? You kind of are who you dance with. And there are some things, and I know that, if you're a good lead, for example, since me and Rob are mostly leaders, we do follow on occasion, but if you are a good leader, you should be able to lead anyone. Sure, I agree. But I will say that you start to develop kind of I wouldn't say bad habits, but you start to develop some certain technique things where you're trying to lead people, and that kind of goes against when you're leading more advanced dancer, kind of goes against it. So I don't know, I've seen it happen firsthand where people kind of takes a while to recover or for whatever reason, recover quickly from bad dancers, for example. And I've seen it both lead and follow, actually. So not just leads, but also follows as well. And so I think that's why a lot of, when you see a lot of cliques form and you see some of the more experienced dancers or skilled dancers, however you want to call it, why they start sticking in their own packs. Because I think this notion of, well, if you dance with someone worse, you might get worse yourself. I think that is a common fear amongst tango dancers. What do you think, Rob?
No, I would say that's definitely true. I mean, when you think about like when we were competing, and we would dance in the milongas. Like when we first started competing, we would dance in the milonga, and then we go back to our partners. They're like, ew, and then it would take us like an hour to just practicing with our partners to get back to where we were to compete against. And then when we started competing, like the following years, we would not dance in the milonga until we got eliminated.
That's a good point. And I've seen a lot of champions do that, actually. A lot of people that do really well in competition, they only dance with their partner. And even before leading up to the competition, they only dance with their partner exclusively at milongas because they are afraid that they're going to lose that technique that they have with each other because they dance with somebody else.
Yeah. For me, when I was an organizer, I would dance with a lot of people who were sitting out, and since I wasn't really actively taking that many classes, I myself felt myself getting a lot worse. It wasn't because, partially it was because I wasn't maintaining myself. I wasn't actively training. I wasn't actively taking classes, but it compounded the whole idea that I was dancing with a lot of people who were sitting out, who a lot of people neglected. That compounded the issue that I eventually got worse at a faster rate. And I also seen that a lot with sometimes taxi dancers, people who are really renowned taxi dancers, and then they're dancing with whoever pays them, and usually those are not the best dancers. And a year later, I'm like, what happened to you, man? You're right. So I've seen that happen to professionals also. It's not just the run-of-the-mill people.
And it kind of boils down to this idea of recalibrating yourself, because I think that is an important thing that a lot of people don't talk about, is that you have, of course, we calibrate ourselves to each person that we dance with. And I feel like when you dance with somebody that is much like they don't have nearly as much experience as you do, you have to really calibrate in a different way. And that calibration can cause some hiccups, for example, in your own technique. And so, and especially for followers too, I definitely could empathize with followers because, in a sense, like as a follower, you have to really blend to the person you're dancing with, right? And so, if you blend to that thing and maybe you kind of take that in and I don't know, that becomes a part of you as a dancer, maybe that's not such a good thing.
No, it definitely is. And I've had friends who I practice with. Sometimes they'll go to another state, another city, because they're visiting family or whatnot, and they'll be dancing in these small communities that aren't as developed. They'll dance there for a week or two, they'll come back, and I'm just like, ugh, whoa, we have a lot to work to, we have a lot of work to do to get you back to where you were. So it happens, and I think when you, one of the hardest things is to actually, going back to, I don't want to say it's perceived lesser dancers because I've danced with a lot of beginners, people who are new.
And so they have some of them have this natural thing.
Yeah, they have their natural. So it's not necessarily just experience.
Yeah.
It's
I didn't know how to qualify it because it's like not skill, experience,
yeah,
it's something like
it's something that's
counter to your technique. We'll just say it that.
Yeah, because what happens is that I have to develop something to compensate for something. Like
Yeah.
I have to compensate for someone being off axis. I need to compensate for someone pulling on my shoulder. I need to compensate for something that's outside the textbook technique.
That's a good way of putting it.
And I think there are a lot of beginners who don't, they don't damage my textbook technique per se. They themselves, they're a sponge and they're learning, and I can work with them. I have the hardest time with people who are maybe 2 to 3 year dancers, where they've kind of developed or they've kind of start straying away from the classic technique, and they're developing their own thing. And I did that too when I was between 2 to 5 years. I started watching videos and I tried to mimic things, and I didn't understand the technique, but it was monkey see, monkey do, and I was just kind of muscling my way through stuff. Or even turns when I was new, I would definitely use my arms a lot more, and that kind of stuff gets absorbed by who I'm dancing with, because now they have like this safety mechanism that they have to put in place so that they don't get hurt.
Yeah.
And in a sense, when I dance with people who I perceive as a danger to myself, that I have to then have my own safety mechanisms, and that safety mechanism, that defense mechanism, sometimes stop me from being a better dancer.
Yeah, no one ever really talks about it. I think we hear a lot of times like followers getting injured by a leader, but you really don't hear as much as leaders getting injured by followers.
Yeah.
It happens, but it's somehow like it kind of gets swept under the rug.
Well, I think it's because it's more of a gradual damage, because I think when followers come back, it's like, oh, my back hurts. This guy's really stiff. He was throwing me around. It's that size difference that really where the damage to a follower is more acute.
I see.
Where when I take damage, it's
over time.
Yeah, it's over time. It's like a little here, a little there.
Yeah.
And then I just think, like, oh, well, it's not too bad. I'll, they're a nice person. I'll keep on doing it. They're very happy. I'm their friend or whatever, and I keep on going and taking damage little at a time. That after like months or something, it's like it's like carpenter's elbow. No one thinks that swinging a hammer, hitting nails, is really going to damage you, but after a while, you're getting arthritis in your elbow. So I think because of that, because it's so gradual and no one realizes it, like even me, I don't realize it until it's too late, and I guess that's a running theme with my life, So.
And you mentioned that in teachers, and I think that's very prominent, where you see a really good teacher, and they're so used to teaching beginners and they're so used to compensating for beginners that carries through in just their regular dance, and it's hard to kind of pick yourself out of that.
Yeah.
Because you're so used to it, especially for the full-time tango teachers, where they're dancing with people all day long, and then they don't have a lot of time to social dance, and they don't have a lot of time to social dance with other people. So they kind of built this calibration towards using this kind of muscle or whatever you want to say to compensate for
Yeah.
certain people.
They start deviating from the classic form.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna kind of stray away from tango a little bit, and I'll speak on something that I know very well, which is tennis. And when you look at someone like, I know a lot of people don't watch too much tennis, but they know who Roger Federer is. Roger Federer has a very classic form, and that's why you'll see him play way past his prime. I mean, he was still playing pros in his late 30s, where most pros like they stop at like 28, 32. That's kind of like the cutoff
Yeah.
for the pros. Where after that, you're done. Your body's like falling apart. You got Andre Agassi getting like cortisol shots in all of his joints and everything. But if you take someone like Roger Federer, who's a very classic form, that classic form gives him a lot of longevity. He gets to play tennis as a pro at a pro level for a very, very long time. So he didn't have to retire until way late, compared to, let's say, another top contender like Rafael Nadal. He doesn't have a classic form. He is tweaking his body to get more powerful shots, but that comes at a price. It comes like his
More
body
wear
is,
and tear.
yeah, his body wears that wear and tear hits his body a lot faster, and it continually breaks him down. So by the time he's in his early 30s or so, he's getting cortisol shots. He's being duct taped together. It's the price. It's the price we pay for greatness, and sometimes that greatness is taking a risk against the classic form. And I think when people take that risk and start dancing with people who make them deviate from their classic form, then that wear and tear really starts
I hate
piling
the
up.
word classic form. I would just say more efficient, right? Your efficiency.
Yeah. Okay.
I will say that I do though, to kind of counter this. I feel like you do develop some strength when you do realize how to compensate for certain things. That is kind of a skill as well.
It is
that
a-
you can use, and that's actually very helpful when you're in your social dance as well. So I'm not it's like, don't get us wrong by saying like, oh, we're always compensating. Those things actually you learn a lot in that compensation as well. It's just the idea of how do you turn or recalibrate, right? How do you turn those things off?
Yeah. Or how to turn that into a positive.
Right.
That's turning it into a positive is a very hard thing, and sometimes you have to go outside of tango to find out ways to turn it into a positive. Like one of the great examples I have is Julio Balmaceda. His really famous Colgada is not a classic Colgada you see in tango, and he got it from a mistake, and then he kind of started investigating it, seeing how to use it, and seeing how to compensate, and then he found a very efficient way to do it without damaging his body.
That's cool.
And someone like for myself, with the help of Jorge Torres, I use a lot of my martial arts to really compensate and understand how to stack and align my body to give myself the best defensive wall, I guess you say.
Yeah.
So I could do these things and not take on so much damage or find myself in a position where I'm totally compromised.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing as well, though. Is like I find myself in this really peak form, like after a milonga, or not after a milonga, after a marathon, like on the Sunday, and I figure out like my body just moves so efficiently, and I just want to keep that for so long, and then I'm worried that if I dance with somebody that I have to compensate for, I'm gonna lose that thing that I had. And so there is that fear.
Yeah.
It's kind of common. It's like, I found something, but I can only use it on certain people. And I don't know. It's just an interesting thing.
No, I totally get that because when I came back from BA, Johnny was like, "Oh, you know that feeling? You've got that BA glow. Like, hold on to it as long as you can." I'm like, I don't even know what that thing is. Of course, it washed away in a few days, but
Yeah.
but I have
That's frustrating.
But it's
And then you're just trying to find it again. And
yeah, and it's almost like the ingredients for the recipe is not here.
yeah.
So there is it's tough. It's definitely tough where you found like some magic sauce and you don't know how to recreate it.
I think the sad thing in tango is that the better you get, the more I feel like there's less people that satisfy that craving of finding that feeling with. And so it's not to say that there's not as many dancers that you will dance with, but to say that your optimal matches that will help you find your true maximum in the dance is limited as you get better and better.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I kind of equate it to like food or like going to a restaurant where there, like when we go to have Thai food at, let's say, Krua Thai, there's those two dishes. It's always the pad kapao or like the emperor's noodle, right? And there's nothing else I'd probably order there. But I go to another place and order the pad kapao, and I'm like, ugh, it's not as good as Krua Thai.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I'm not going to order that dish anywhere else except Krua Thai. and in a sense, it's the same thing where, that pugliese song comes on, and I'm like, I'm balling that person because that's the girl who I have that secret sauce with.
Yes.
Or if I hear that magical, Cholo Marino, where I'm like, oh, I'm eyeballing that person because that's the person I have that secret sauce with. It's so it gets really frustrating when you discover that, and it's not something that I could share with anyone, everyone.
It's true.
Because there's that idea that everyone says, oh yeah, you should be able to lead anything. You should be able to lead anybody to dance with you, and yeah, it's true. But there's also a certain quality that we don't talk about. It's like, yes, I can lead a toccata. Yes, I can lead complex figures, right? But the reciprocation creates that feeling. Just because I could do a figure doesn't mean there's emotional content in there. It doesn't mean that there's quality in there. It's just the figure is done. And I think that's something we don't stress enough of, where we just talk about completion of an idea rather than the quality and how much is reciprocated between partners.
And that's the interesting thing is sometimes you'll see a lot of, like myself including, like you'll see a lot of people sitting out some of their most favorite tandas because when you love the music so much and it's so specific, and if you don't have someone to express that same feeling with, I would rather just sit it out than struggle through it with somebody else and do it like a disservice, like the song. Yeah. So some people are like, well, don't you like pugliese? I'm like, yeah, just like, well, I don't have, if I'm sitting out like a pugliese, that, well, it's like there's not the people out there that I really can express that with, which is a sad thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, it definitely sucks for me because I'm a bit slow on the draw when it comes to the cabeceo. So, when I hear that pugliese, and then I'm like, oh shoot, they're already on the floor.
Yeah, I know.
So that sucks, and I'm pretty sure ladies feel the same way too, because I see some ladies where their favorite song comes on and then it's straight to their phone. They're like, I'm gonna avoid everybody. Just, it's
take
like,
one shoe off and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's no thing for us guys.
Oh, yes, there is.
I mean, I guess you could check the phone too.
Yeah, but no, come on, like we know a very prominent LA DJ who takes off his shoes, and then when he really wants to, he'll dance barefoot.
Yeah.
So
that's true, but I guess it's not as prominent.
There's okay. I on a comedic point, I have a very special skill of falling asleep whenever I want to. So I'll nod off in the corner when I want to be alone.
Left alone.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not faking. I really have narcolepsy. I can close my eyes and in 5 seconds I'm out. But yeah.
Mine is I usually get water or snacks or.
Yeah, but what if they're like, you get water and you're going to go get water and there's a crowd of people, like the paparazzi squad's there for you. They're like, Derek.
Then I give this exhausted look, like, I can't. I don't verbalize it, but just your expression on my face, you'll see in my face, like, I can't, like, I need water. Like I just saw, like I was just scrounging through the desert and I found the only source of water.
Yeah, but sometimes it's tough to reject people kindly because they'll look at you, they're like, Derek, you're so young, like stop acting, Or in my case, I do have my knee injury, But some people will see me dance and move like, oh, Rob, you're dancing really well. You're 100% recovered. I'm like, no, I'm not 100% recovered. You know, I look like I'm dancing well because those are people I practice with, those are people I train with, and those are people um, I don't have to compensate for. And you know, I don't want to go out and just tell people like, yeah, like I need to compensate for you when I dance, and it's a really rude thing to say. Like, and I don't know how else. I don't know how to deliver a rejection in a kind way.
Yeah. I mean, with some people, it's not that I have to compensate as like in that way. It's more of I have to limit myself from what I can usually do and kind of like simplify things.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's not bad. It's just like sometimes I really want to explore more.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just can't do it with some people,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
For me, it's because like I'm on this journey of exploring emotional content in everything that I do. So yeah, I'm going like 120 on everything on all my dances.
Yeah, 120.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm putting it like I'm throwing the kitchen sink in there. You know, I'm not like doing the kitchen sink in terms of all the figures I know, but in terms of as much energy as I can pump into that song. And I get exhausted now.
Yeah.
I mean, if people reciprocate, I can go on more, you know, because it feeds me. But when people don't have that ability to reciprocate, like I might be done after 2 songs, you know, because
That's true. I mean, if you both maximize, yeah, I can tell. Like, there's some people I can just go all out with, and then yes, I'm just tired. I have to take a break after this tanda. That's what I don't get. Like, some people are just right back out there, but for me, it's like I just gave everything in that last tanda. I need to go outside and light a cigar or something. You know, like.
Yeah. It's like the post tanda smoke. You're like, was it good for you? No, but what I mean is like if they reciprocate, I get my energy back. You know, and that's what I mean is that the worst thing for me is I give 110, 120, and they give 0. So it's like a black hole of just taking my emotions and taking everything.
Yeah.
And
You're like the Green Mile guy.
yeah.
It's just like taking it all away from you,
Yeah, and you know,
sucking it out of you.
that's the really difficult part because you know I want them to experience this also, you know, and it's not that these are lesser dancers or less experienced dancers or whatever you want to call them. It's just that I don't know how to tap in to like the wavelength or whatever, so that there is a circular energy that where I give and they give and it's reciprocated and it goes back and forth.
Right.
I haven't found like this
Most
is
of the
something.
time, it's just like I'm giving all this stuff. And like,
Yeah, well, I mean, and maybe maybe that's just my mentality because I feel like it that way, and they might, and maybe if
maybe they're trying to give, but you can't receive it.
yeah, or like it's just I'm on a different wavelength or something. You know, this is something that is like I'm exploring something that's very new to me. So I'm not there. I could do it with some people because you know the stars align, and sometimes I can only do it with certain songs or certain orchestras or whatnot, or if the floor is kind of clear, or there's a lot of factors that go into it. You know, it's not just the song and the person, but there's a lot of things that have to be put in place, and sometimes you know you can give all you want, and they can give all they want, but sometimes it just doesn't work, and I don't know what to do from there because maybe I'm not skilled enough or I know enough to make it work.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. Yeah, we don't talk about it because I think we don't want to hurt people's feelings. I feel like most people want to keep things cordial, and I think a lot of people will just kind of get through it and not talk about it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a challenging thing. Whether like, am I getting worse by dancing with, I don't know, so and so people? It's tough to say, but it is a fear that's out there, and it is a commonplace thing that we've seen through our years of tango. But yeah, let us know. I mean, what do you think? Or the people watching the video, let us know in the comments. What do you think about, you know, Are you afraid of getting worse by dancing with worse people? Do you think that transmits to you? Do you feel like, have you ever had that moment where you have to recalibrate, right? Maybe you dance with somebody that you dance with all the time that you love dancing with, and they're just like, oh, what happened to you, honestly? And that might be something that, well, we all share, and we would like to know what you think in the comments. But anyways, thank y'all so much for watching, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thank you for watching the latest episode of Left Foot, Right Foot. Click the subscribe button and the notification bell to keep up to date with our latest videos. We greatly appreciate it.
Also, if you can, click the like button. It really helps us with the algorithm. Where our goal is really to make tango, social tango in the community more available to the mass public. And that's pretty much our goal with the whole channel. So if you could click that like button, it really goes a long way. Thank y'all so much.